Alright, this video is going to go over some of the differences between CentOS type distributions like Fedora and RedHat and Ubuntu-like distributions like Debian and I guess I should say Debian-like distributions like Ubuntu and Mint. So first off, we're going to review some of the things we do on CentOS. So we use yum to install software and updates on CentOS, and for CentOS we can do yum check-update to see if there are any updates, and it connects to the mirrors and checks for updates. If we want to install the updates, we can use yum update to install the updates. It'll run through, ask us if we want to install the updates, and we can hit yes to install those updates. So we're not going to do that right now. Ubuntu, we want to apply updates. This is a Mint system, but it's the same as with Ubuntu. We have to use the apt command, and the way we install updates is apt-get update. So it goes through and it connects out and downloads the latest version of packages to install, and that was update. Update downloads the latest version of the packages to install. And if you want to actually install them, use apt-get upgrade. So this goes through and actually says it's going to install the packages. A couple things to note. You tell it yes to install them, but up here it tells you the following packages have been kept back. So one of these packages is the Linux kernel, right? So with Ubuntu-based distributions, when you go to install the kernel, if there's a new kernel, it's not going to install it when you do the other upgrade. You have to do that separately. CentOS went ahead and installed it. Was going to go ahead and install the kernel for me, although that's not a kernel. When there is a kernel, it go ahead and installs the kernel package for you. Yeah, so here's package kernel will be installed. So it was going to install the new kernel without even holding it back to worry about things for you. So that's the difference. Over here on Ubuntu, if you do apt-get upgrade and you didn't do apt-get update, then you don't have the most recent packages list. So you always want to do apt-get update before you apt-get upgrade. So we'll go ahead and install the updates just for fun to see how it works for both of them. Hopefully it'll go smoothly. So 36%, 13 to 25. I should have planned better and had another terminal window open. I could talk about some other stuff. But hey, I can do that. All right. So another thing that's different about the Ubuntu versus CentOS is sometimes things are called different things. So for example, on CentOS, we can do service HTTPD status to get the status of our web server, and that works. On Ubuntu, first off, I didn't install it yet, so why don't we go back a step for that. To install things in Ubuntu, apt get install and whatever it is you want to install. If you don't know what it is you want to install, you can do apt. If you just type apt, it tells you a bunch of stuff. We're going to search. So we're going to apt search Apache. It's not going to work because we're installing updates right now. Awesome. Oh, hey, it worked finally. Maybe the updates are done. No. Well, it worked. Anyway, if we search back up here, our font's really big so you guys can see on the podcast. Zoom out a little bit. If we pipe that into more, we see the first thing up here is Apache 2, the HTTP server. So that's what we want to install. So now we're going to do apt get install Apache 2. It's not going to work because we're currently doing updates. So once updates are done, it should work. I'll go ahead and hit enter so we can see if it doesn't work. Apt get, I had too many dashes. Yeah, so it prevents us from doing updates in two places at once. So we'll wait for this to finish. Maybe this was a bad idea. My CentOS is done. So if you look, it says it installed this kernel, but we should remember if we run the command uname -r, I think it was, it tells us what the kernel is. And if we look, the kernel is 2632.696.13.2, and this is 696.23.1. So what's up? We just installed a new kernel, right? Yeah, we did, but you have to reboot the system to get it to load the new kernel. So if you don't actually reboot, you need to you won't actually learn the new load the new kernel. A lot of these things you install don't require reboots because it's just software that's used for different things. But the kernel, when you install the new kernel, you need to reboot. And if you update Apache, you may need to restart Apache and that kind of stuff. So, all right, so that finished installing. So let's go ahead and install Apache now. Yes, we want to install it. While that's working, never mind. I was going to say, while that's working, let's go back over here and do one other thing. So while it's working, let's go over here and do apt get upgrade again and look at what it tells us. It tells us that we didn't install these packages. So if you want to install one of these packages, I believe it would be apt get install and then the ones that were held back. So that's going to let you install the new kernel. So anything that was held back, if it doesn't get upgraded, you need to go and install manually. I'm not going to do that. So basically, if we go back over here to talk about what we were talking about before, on CentOS we did service HTTPD status. On Ubuntu, we still use this, we meant / Ubuntu type distributions. We can still use the service command, but there's no service HTTPD status, which is a little annoying, right? It's like, why didn't that work? Well, in Ubuntu land, we call it Apache 2. So we do service Apache 2 status. Why is it different? I don't know. Two different groups of people maintain it, and they do different things, which, you know, from a global standpoint is kind of annoying. So what do you do if you need to start a service and you can't figure out what it's called? Well, as long as we're still using the old init system and not using systemd, we can see what it's called by looking in the etc init.d directory. And these are the names you would use to stop and start the service. In fact, you could also just run these scripts directly. So Apache 2, and then put the keywords you want. Right, so you can run that script directly. If we go back over here on the CentOS machine and look at init.d directory, we have one called HTTPD. So if you don't know what it's called, you can look in the etc init.d directory to find out what it's called. And the same thing works over here. etc init.d HTTPD status. All right, so that's another annoying thing. They have different names for the different tools. And one thing, let's see if there's a good example without me having to install more software. Yeah, there's two good examples of things that are named differently, I think. Let me go look at Ubuntu again. All right, one of them is networking. Over here it's service networking restart, or service networking status, or restart or stop. Over here it's service network. On CentOS, RedHat, Fedora, service network status. Is it a big deal? No, but it is just a little annoying. So that's the second difference we're going to talk about. You know, stopping, starting, managing services. You have different names. And then the third difference we're going to talk about is some of the config files are in different places. So on CentOS, we can look at our system interfaces configuration file. We have this file called ifconfig eth whatever you have. So we have eth0. If we had multiple interfaces, we'd have multiple of those. And we have this file that tells us about our networking settings. This Ubuntu machine, if we were to look in that direction, try to look in that directory, there is no sysconfig directory. So on this Ubuntu machine, Linux machine, Mint machine, we have a file called etc network interfaces. And this is where you would put information if you wanted to statically configure your IP addresses for your machine. So those are the three important ways that they're different that I can think of. Different update managers, different words when you're stopping and starting services, and then a lot of the config files are in different places. But if you know what you're doing, you should be able to use Google to be like, hey, what's the Ubuntu interface config file to find the name of the file. Everything else, I shouldn't say everything else. A lot of everything else is the same though. ls is still ls. That's the command we use to look at files. Cat is still cat. Pretty much every shell, all the normal shell commands are still there to do our normal work. But those other things are the differences that might be important to know about if you go to a different distribution.